A lot has changed since the 18th century, especially when it comes to the equality between the sexes. In this presentation, we are going to discuss the thoughts of Olympe de Gouges, an 18th century feminist, on participation in the European Union. More specifically, would Olympe de Gouges be satisfied with the current female political participation in the European Union? Through looking at the perspective of de Gouges, presenting the case of female participation within the EU, applying and analyzing and putting forward important criticism, we are going to argue that, although female emancipation has improved a lot over the years, de Gouges' objectives have not yet been completely fulfilled.
Olympe de Gouges. She was a French feminist in the late 18th century, and she was also a dedicated revolutionary. She believed in the equality of the sexes, and therefore she was, of course, really disappointed in the Declaration of Citizens, the Declaration of the Rights of Men and Citizens, because women weren't granted the same rights as men were. So in response to this, she wrote the Declaration of the Rights of Women and Citizens. And within this presentation, we're going to look at this proclamation and discuss a few of the articles to figure out how she would assess the current political participation of women in the European Union. So the first article we're going to look at is article number 6. This article states that the laws must be the expression of the general will. All female and male citizens must take part either personally or through their representatives in its formation. It must be the same for all. Male and female citizens, being equal in the eyes of the law, must be equally eligible for all honors, positions, and public offices, according to their capacity, and without other distinctions besides those of their virtues and talents. So the first thing I want to draw attention to is that she mentions how the laws must be the expression of the general will. This means that not only can females in her eyes have the right to participate, but they will also have the duty to participate, because all laws must be an expression of the general will, and otherwise they won't be legitimate, basically. A second thing that you can notice is the statement that everyone should be equal in the eyes of the law. And the last thing is the statement that everyone should be equally eligible for all honors, positions, and public offices according to their capacity and without other distinctions besides those of their virtues and talents. So what she's trying to say here is basically that eligibility should only be based on merit and not anything else, including gender. So the same themes can be found in Article 10, in which she states that no one is to be harmed, even for his very basic opinion. A woman has the right to mount scaffold. She must equally have the right to take the rostrum, provided that her demonstrations do not disturb the public order established by the law. So again, we see the idea about equality in the eyes of the law and equal rights and duties. And the last article I want to draw attention to is Article 16, which states that no society has a constitution without the guarantee of the rights and the separation of powers. The constitution is null if the majority of individuals comprising the nation have not cooperated in drafting it. So again, she draws attention to the fact that not only do women have the right to participate, but they now also have the duty to participate. So the three focal points that I can draw out of this declaration, which can be found in these 3 articles, but also in all the other articles, is 1, all citizens have equal rights and duties, and this also includes the duty to participate. And 2, all citizens are equal in the eyes of the law. And 3, eligibility for all honors, positions, and public offices should be based on merits only.
Okay, now I will be applying the case of female representation and then female participation in the EU. So female representation in the European Parliament has increased over time, since it increased from 15.2% to now 40.4%. On the other hand, in the national parliaments, in 2019, women accounted for 31% of parliament members in EU countries. There are countries such as the Netherlands that has 43.5% of women in parliament, Finland that has 57.6%, and Sweden that has 52.2%, that, as stated, have naturally high proportions of female representations in their legislatures. Instead, there's also countries struggling in this aspect that decide to impose quotas which require a minimal proportion as a way to promote female representation in politics. Examples of such countries are Belgium, France, Slovenia, Spain, Portugal, and Poland. Lastly, we can also observe countries with extremely low levels of representation, such as Greece, that has a percentage of 9.8%, and Malta, that has 8.7%. So as for female participation, in the European Parliament elections, although considered minor, therefore there are generally lower turnouts, we can see some differences between genders. Although most countries have more or less equal, in the 2014 European Parliament elections, as demonstrated in the graph, French women voted 11.6% less than French men. Spanish women voted 11.3% less than Spanish men, while in Sweden, Swedish women voted 16.9% more. Now I'll be applying the case of European female representation and participation to de Gouges. So when applying the three central themes of de Gouges' The Rights of Women, we can draw the relationship between her ideals for female emancipation and the reality of political representation and participation in the EU. The three themes, as previously mentioned by Anna, are: firstly, all citizens have equal rights and duties; secondly, all citizens are equal in the eyes of the law; and thirdly, eligibility for all honors, positions, and public offices should be based on merits only. So the first theme is equality in rights and duties. We can see that although based on the law, rights and duties are equal, duties in practice are not. Both genders have the equal responsibility to fulfill their duties as stated by the law, yet in practice, the duty to participate is not perceived equally by both genders. This is demonstrated by the differences in rates of political participation between the two genders. As previously stated, French and Spanish women participated much less in the 2014 European Parliament elections, on average by 11%. Although this is just one distinct case, it demonstrates that women are not taking advantage of this legal equality of duties and don't feel as much responsibility to fulfill their duty, in this case of voting in the European elections. The second theme is equality in the eyes of the law, and this we all know is present in European institutions and politics, since the rule of law does not discriminate on gender and treats all equally. The third theme is the most problematic, since it's based on eligibility based on merit. But considering the pure fact that countries have found the need to apply minimal quotas for female representation demonstrates that a meritocratic culture is still not present in all of Europe. Although there are some countries such as the Netherlands, Sweden, and Finland, as previously mentioned, that do not need these quotas since they have naturally high proportions of female representation, other countries still have the need for this minimal quota, or as many countries do, just allow female representation to remain at lower levels without applying a quota. As a result, this demonstrates that the third theme has not been fully accomplished at the whole European level, and that eligibility for all honors, positions, and public offices are not yet based on merits only. Therefore, the responsibility towards duties and the eligibility based on merit are not fully present in the EU.
Although de Gouges makes important observations on how the equality between sexes has to be granted through the law, she does, however, remain oblivious to the fact that these are just some of the dimensions of the problem. She doesn't really talk so much about stereotyping, for example, or social constructs. There is, of course, still a distinct underrepresentation of women in decision-making processes and other positions. So women do have equal rights as men in the EU countries, which match up with de Gouges' beliefs. Despite this, equal rights do not make up for the still existent gaps within politics.
Conclusion. In conclusion, de Gouges would not be completely satisfied with the current female political participation within the European Union. Women have gained equality in the eyes of the law, but have not fulfilled their duty to participate. However, since eligibility based solely on merit has still not been reached, it can be argued that women do not have the possibility or capability to fulfill this duty. Female emancipation has improved a lot over the years, but all of de Gouges' objectives had not been completely fulfilled, and she can therefore not be said to yet be satisfied with the current female political participation within the EU.